All right, Emily, would you believe it? People are leaving and moving out of Florida.
Really?
That is apparently the truth. So today we're going to talk about where they're moving to and why they're moving, and we're going to do it right now.
All right, let's do it.
Where are people moving to? Well, apparently, and I can experience and attest to this too, really the southeast section of the United States has popular growth, with the exception, of course, is Texas. I looked at the numbers last year and I told you from all the folks that relocated, we only had really one family that left Texas. Not to say there's more, not more, but a lot of people are moving to Texas, right? So the big states we're seeing migration from, of course, is New York, California, Washington. And so those folks are moving to places like Texas. But also on the list, speaking for the Southeast region, we have North Carolina, Tennessee, and South Carolina. So that's where people are moving. And ironically, I can say also, we just had a listing appointment and we have folks that are moving back to Tennessee. I do have folks leaving Tennessee, but that's because they're in Memphis, Tennessee, and they said the crime rates are pretty bad in Memphis right now. But the reality is people are leaving Florida, and I even have close friends that are leaving South Florida and moving to South Carolina. And I told you earlier before we started this, well, where are they moving in South Carolina? Well, I know I've never heard of it, but they're moving to a city called Somerville. So it's very interesting to me because obviously there's been some profound reasons why people would get up and leave Florida, which a lot of people are migrating to. So the reasons have to really hit home.
Yeah, this is so interesting to me because I am a Florida transplant. I moved from Georgia to Florida. And now that I'm here, it's really hard to imagine leaving. I feel like the only reason I would leave is if it had something to do with my family, because my family's still in Georgia. But other than that, I absolutely love living here. So it's just really, I'm really interested to know why people are leaving.
Okay, well, the data we're using today is not necessarily, we're in Northeast Florida, which I say from time to time, it feels like we're in a different state. Like Orlando North should be one state and Orlando South should be another state.
Totally.
Because Florida is so long, right? I mean, the climate is different. The environment is different here in Northeast Florida. I'm from South Florida, and Northeast Florida is completely different to me. So a lot of these reasons may apply, they apply as the state as a whole, but I will point out some things here which are nothing to do with maybe our region, some of the big reasons, because number one on the list was the high cost of living. And like I said, it has to hit close to home, and the wallet is as close as it gets. And the reality is if folks that have been living in Florida a long time are struggling with these massive high costs, because you have folks moving in from New York and California that are driving up the cost of housing here in Florida.
So true. We definitely saw that over the last few years of them bringing so much equity they had in their homes there and creating this really competitive market everywhere, it felt like in Florida. We definitely felt that here in Northeast Florida.
Yes. So some of the stats that we are sharing, I mean, the median house of a cost for a home in Florida in general has reached up to $590,000. I was talking to folks who moved out of Florida and are moving back to Florida, and I was telling them that it's not necessarily that we've seen a massive increase in pricing. We've seen heavy increase of pricing every year. So like we've seen where pricing, and again, speaking for Northeast Florida, pricing of homes going up 30%, but then going up another 30% the following year after. So that's a big hike. Standard pricing home prices should go up on average 2-3% a year, not 33%.
Yeah, that's hard to keep up with.
That's hard to keep up with. And so a median sale price of a home over $500,000, that's not cheap. No. So it's really priced a lot of people out of owning a home, that American dream of owning a home. And so they're saying, you know what? Screw that. Maybe we need to move. Where are we going to go?
And you think, like, my husband and I talk all the time. Every time we go up to Georgia to visit family, we always look at what's on the market. And we do look and see, like, wow, you can get so much more for your dollar up there. So I totally see what you're saying now that you pointed out.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're in Georgia, Tennessee's right there. They're growing immensely. Like I said, South Carolina, we stop in Fort Mills on the way down back from our Georgia house, our mountain house, and we see massive development there, new home construction. There's other channels that I constantly see them using the title. People are leaving to Florida and they're advertising South Carolina. So it is very interesting. So not only is housing costs gone up in Florida tremendously, thanks to the migration, people, lack of inventory and pushing pricing up, but then of course our property taxes have been going up. Our insurance has skyrocketed. Now, again, I want to make sure people understand it's very much based on the coastal areas specifically have seen the most massive increases in insurance, and that's because of the hurricanes. So it's all relative, right? We just got through Southwest Florida, got drilled in Fort Myers from a massive hurricane, and immediately lawsuits. A lot of insurance companies went out of business. A lot of them left the state of Florida. So I'm noticing South Florida, where I used to live, Southeast Florida, Southwest Florida, the Panhandle. These are areas that are most susceptible to hurricanes, right? So they're seeing they're the ones seeing the massive growth in insurance rates, where it's become pretty unaffordable. Here in Northeast Florida, knock on wood, we've had slight increases in home insurance, but nothing in comparison to South Florida. For instance, a $600,000 home here, you could probably get flood and home insurance, very decent coverage, for around a couple grand, if that, a year.
Wow.
That same home in South Florida or Southwest Florida, that insurance could be as high as $4,000, double, if not more. I've heard nightmares of friends in the Panhandle that says they live near the water in the Panhandle, and they're seeing insurance rates of $10,000 to $15,000.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, so it's dramatic, and so I think that's why we've done so well here in Northeast Florida, is we haven't had those massive increases. So pretty soon, too, I learned from our insurance rep here, Leah. She mentioned that pretty soon Florida is going to require flood insurance. So that is not going to be optional anymore. It doesn't matter what flood zone you're going to be in. The state is going to require you eventually to have flood insurance.
Very interested to know when that's going to take effect. And for anyone watching, if you're a numbers person, if you're really interested in the insurance world and how that affects housing here in Florida, we do have a video specifically on that I will link for you to watch as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that helps. Then, of course, naturally, if housing pricing is going up, it's only natural that property insurance is going to go up. If it's your primary resident in Florida, you do have a homestead exemption if it is your primary residence. which does allow you to maintain a reasonable home insurance where it can only increase, I think, 2 or 3% a year. Don't quote me on that, as long as it's your primary home. Now, again, a lot of folks that live in the warmer climate areas of Florida, such as South Florida or Southwest Florida, or Southeast Florida, some of them are seasonal, and that's not their primary residence. Florida is a big vacation state, or it has been in the past. So people have second, third homes. We have a big vacation rental market here in Florida. So people might experience much higher raises on their property insurance. That's because it's not their primary residence and it's not homesteaded. So that's another issue that people have found here as far as the insurance and property taxes going up. So, and again, I think a lot of this is going on around the rest of the country. It's just very dramatic here because we're such a massive migration state. And then finally, another thing which is comical, because I heard it and it actually hit me this week. My wife said our car insurance went up $500 a year this year, and I was like, 500? That's because of all the floods that affected homes during the last hurricane. It really wasn't the hurricane that affected Fort Myers the last time around, but it was also the surges, the storm surges from the hurricane that created the flooding. So a lot of cars were damaged, and believe it or not, a lot of car insurance companies jacked up their rates as well to survive. Yeah. So we're also seeing car insurance go up. So all these things are affected because of our location here in Florida. A lot of coastal cities were susceptible to hurricanes and storms and whatnot. And so people that live in those areas have been affected by storms way more than we have up here in Jacksonville. I mean, we've got, knock on wood, we've been so blessed.
Definitely.
That people are fed up. They're sick and tired of going through hurricane season every year and wondering if they're going to get nailed or not. You know? So storms are getting worse and worse, which is what the next thing on the list was the climate and the rising threat of hurricanes. Whether you believe in global warming or not, there's something going on out there.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you're so right. Anytime a storm comes in, like I said, my family is not from here, and they're like, "Are you evacuating? Are you evacuating?" And my husband's born and raised here, and he's like, "No, if it's not a Category 5, we're not leaving." But it is a real concern. Like you said, thankfully, we've been so blessed to not experience a lot of the damage and devastation that other areas have. But man, just seeing the damage that happened on that southwest coast of Florida with our most recent hurricane, was it Ian? Was that the most recent one?
I'm not really sure. I think it might have been Ian. You might be right. I don't know.
Ian or Nicole, one of these more recent ones. I can't remember, but just seeing that devastation, it reminds you how blessed you are. And, I can't imagine going through something like that, but I could definitely see how if someone did, or they know someone that did, that could definitely be a motivating factor, as far as reasons to maybe consider living in a different state where you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. And even just recently, we had that tornado that ripped through,
Panama City, right? Panama City Beach and the Panhandle.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I don't know, it was last week while that was happening, we did have tornado watches here in Northeast Florida.
We did, yeah.
So again, people that are not used to this kind of stuff, that seems rather scary to them. You hear about tornadoes in the Midwest, like Oklahoma or whatnot. You don't hear about it here in Florida. So that one really threw me for a loop. My wife texted me and was like, we're on tornado watch, get in the closet. I'm like, what are you talking about? It doesn't work right now. She's like, oh no, it's really close. I'm like, okay. And then I saw the impact it did in the Panhandle, and it breaks my heart to see people's homes destroyed, and it's in an instant.
Yeah.
So that's scary. So it can happen. Then, of course, we did our research on this, and people are leaving because of hot weather.
I would rather endure the hot weather than the cold weather. We have visited New York and places like that in this time of year. We were in New York on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day last year, and I'm only good for about a week. Whenever you have like the excitement of vacation, once that wears off, I'm like, nope, I don't want to be frozen. I mean, you just experienced it. You just went to Utah, Park City, Utah, to have a ski trip. I mean, could you see yourself living in that kind of climate, or would you prefer the hot?
Not at all. I definitely can't. Listen, I got off the phone with folks in Missouri right now, and they said it's -16. I talked to people in Michigan this weekend, and it was 0. So there's insane freezes going on in other parts of the country. So I think the weather thing, the heat, again, more prevalent in southern Florida, of course. It's just way more tropical down there. You get much longer summers. Not to say it doesn't get hot here in Northeast Florida, but I always say we're usually 5 to 10 degrees cooler up here. And look, I mean, we've had some pretty cold weather recently. I mean, we've been in the 60s, 55 at night. And
we actually have a freeze warning tonight. Today is January 16th for anyone watching. We are going to be in the 30s tonight and tomorrow night. And I think this upcoming Saturday, the high temp is 47.
Yeah.
So we do get that variation. You know, I sometimes when my mom is trying to convince me to move back to Georgia, she says, don't you miss the seasons? And while we don't experience a true fall with the changing leaves and things like that you might get in other areas, I think we experience the seasons here in Northeast Florida.
Oh, we do, definitely. We have a tree out front. We have to rake it every year. We had to rake it 3 times this year because our leaf fell off. I think, you know, it's just very interesting to me because there's been such wide shifts in weather. My brother lives in Dallas, and he said it's just been very odd, even in Texas, you know, where it'll be really hot one day and then 17 degrees the next day. We don't have that much extreme weather here in Northeast Florida per se, but it's definitely, I can understand people that are retirement age or whatnot. They're affected more so, whether it's extreme cold weathers affect people with arthritis, or people that have any kind of challenges, respiratory, whatnot. Especially in South Florida, you have more climate and allergy seasons, so people may be more susceptible to that. So just to reiterate though, we're not like Arizona where it gets 115 degrees. You know, that very rarely happens around at least Northeast Florida. I can speak to that. So you know, I think overall I was a little reluctant to make this video because I was like, are people really leaving? And like I said, I have folks moving back to Tennessee that we're putting a listing up. They're from there. They want to be near family. They're going back to their roots. I think a lot of people during the migration moved to Florida, and you know, they're in different parts of their life, and they're ready to go back, and that's fine. But there's still a massive amount of people still moving here. And so our last point is it's all about, you know, your personal preference. You know, what are you looking for? And that's why it's really important to talk to somebody, a local professional like ourselves that live in the area, that are going to be direct and straightforward with you on what it's really like in which area that you're choosing for in Florida. Everybody that calls us, I always ask, where else are you looking in Florida? That's one of my main questions. Anybody who knows is working with us currently knows that that's one of our big questions. And a lot of people, if anywhere, they're talking about Lakewood Ranch in Sarasota. And again, Lakewood Ranch, Sarasota area, that's near the Gulf. It's also a little warmer down there, just totally different. So wherever you're considering in Florida, call a good real estate professional like ourselves. check out all the videos on the channel and really get a feel for the area. There's so many videos out there now that you can really get a feeling for not only the weather, the cost of living, but the culture and all that good stuff too.
Definitely. I think we have a unique perspective to offer because you are from here. You've lived in South Florida, you've lived in North Florida, and I am a transplant. I've come from another state to Florida. So we've got a lot of good perspectives to lend and really understanding, what is your lifestyle like? Where would be the best place for someone to end up? I will say, while I was surprised to hear that people are leaving, I'm not surprised that we still had net positive migration. Florida is a fantastic place to live. I love it here.
Net positive migration, meaning more people are still moving here than leaving.
Yep.
A great amount. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. I don't think we looked in the numbers. It's the 2022 US Census Bureau says approximately 275,000 people moved out of the state of Florida in 2022. We didn't really get a number of how many people moved in comparison.
I have it. It's in my notebook. I will find it and we can put it in the description so I don't bore everyone.
All right, we'll put it in the description so that you can compare 275,000. I mean, the population here in St. Johns County is 400,000. The population in Duval County, Jacksonville, is 1 million. So just to give you an idea, that's a very small number. So I get it. Anyway, I hope everybody found value in this video. We appreciate you watching. Of course, if you're thinking about moving the area, we'd love to be your resource of choice here, the Living in Jacksonville team. My name is Greg. My information will be in the description below. You can text me, call me, email me. It's never too early, whether you're moving 9 days, 90 days, 180 days. It's never too early to start a conversation and start planning. And again, reach out. Let's have that conversation and see if Northeast Florida is the right place for you.
Sounds great. And don't forget, if you liked what you saw, if you've checked out our other videos on the channel, make sure you give us a thumbs up, maybe drop a comment, but definitely subscribe so that you are the first to find out about our videos. We put out really great content every week. We do a live video every Thursday night to really keep our hand on the pulse of what's going on in our market and share that information with you.
Awesome. All right, let's get on to the next one.